This is the Sports Porch Philadelphia. Flyers, Eagles, Sixers, Phillies. With your hosts, the Grand Schwabini, Rube, and me, your technical director. Come on, Philly. Let's get down to a little bit of Philly love. The Sports Porch starts now. Philadelphia Sports Porch. Here we are back again live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And this week, guys, a little surprise for you. We're going to start something new. We are also right now live on Radio PGH. So anybody who wants to listen live on Radio PGH can stream it.
Okay.
I'm going to drop that comment right now in the comments. So welcome to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. Big week in Philadelphia sports. I'm your host, the technical director, along with the Grand Schwabini right in front of me in the studio. And of course, Rube, who is still a proud Philly fan, living in Texas, but he comes to us in Texas via London, England, where he was last week. And
we missed you, Rube.
We did.
I missed you guys too. I listened to the Sports Porch Philadelphia, heard your concern, and immediately texted to let you know we're all okay and enjoying ourselves in London. Got back last night.
Well, I don't think it wasn't really concern.
Sure, it was.
I took it as concern.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I mean, if that's the way you want to see it, that's fine with me.
Shall we talk about sports?
Yeah, sure. Anywhere. Listen. You can follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you get
your freaking podcast.
That's exactly right. And you can also follow us and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Philadelphia Sports Porch. Got a comment coming in already. Steve
loves the background.
Yeah, we reconfigured the studio, everybody, just to make it feel a little bit more homey for Mark. And as you can see, this is where you up there you get general seating down at is it the link?
The
right?
link,
down at the link, and then you get the Flyers who, of course, encompass all of
Rube has the nice Dawkins jersey.
He's got
in the background.
Yeah,
and you've got a little eagle.
I've got a little eagle right here. Yeah, little eagle. So
little eagle. Should we call the technical director little eagle now?
Little eagle. Okay, we'll talk about that.
All right. Well, hey, look.
Maybe I'll do it.
It's a victory Monday. Your Birds are 10-2.
Yes, they are.
That's a pretty good record. Only behind the 11-1 Lions in the NFC. You also have the Vikings are 10-2 somehow. You have
really.
In the AFC you've got the Chiefs are 11-1, and the Bills I think are 10-2. And then I think you have the Steelers are 9-3. Is that right? 9-3. I think so.
They are, yes.
So I think those are your top 6 teams in the league.
Yeah. Are you nervous, Schwaber? You're shaking again. You're shaking your camera. You're shaking your table. Did you ever notice Mark has a nervous tick?
Do you ever notice that you can't just concentrate on the show sometimes?
I mean, while I'm trying to put up the signs, you're like, Anyway, what do we do here? We do pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. And yes, page 1 is the Eagles body slam and the Ravens. And with that, you have a little highlight you wanted me to play.
Yes, let's. Rube, did you get a chance to enjoy the Cooper DeJean?
I did see it.
Body slam of King Henry.
All right, let's take a look at that highlight.
Here it is
right now.
3rd and 11. Nothing to work with there as he's pile driven into the ground by the rookie Cooper DeJean against Derrick Henry of all people.
That was pretty exciting. Huh,
that
Rube?
Was. Yep.
That was, and I love, King Henry.
Yeah.
It feels very London to me, just saying.
Yeah, so I think last week in our other show, I was the only guy that picked the Eagles to win.
You did. You did. Although, I will say this, though. Here's the thing that sometimes comes with, when the games play out, right? So, I mentioned before the Eagles, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers. To be honest with you, those are the 6 best teams in football, and these other teams just aren't. I mean, like, like at the time we thought like, wow, we beat the Bengals. The Bengals suck. The Bengals are 4-8. They're a horrible football team.
Well, actually, they're a horrible defensive football
team. Sure.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'm now looking at the Ravens a little bit like that too. Like, are they that good? I mean, like, it seems like it's such a big win and everybody's talking about it like it's such a big win, but like, are they any good? I mean, all you have to do is stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. If you keep him in the pocket,
right.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't know how he has so many touchdowns and so few interceptions. He looks like he can't throw worth crap.
Yeah.
Who's he throwing the ball to? Zay Flowers? I mean, does that scare you to death?
Well, this is a typical Philly attitude after a big win, but in truth,
but they're not that good.
I think they're pretty good.
I disagree. I think they're good. I think they're good. I think we're feeling our oats a little bit here because we went on the road and beat. We finally beat a team worthy of some excitement. Like you said, who have we beat? We beat Washington. That was a nice win. But besides that, Cincinnati, Dallas, the Giants haven't really played much competition. And had I been on the show last week, I probably would have called it a loss. I bet we all probably called it a loss at the beginning of the season.
Well, here's the thing. My point is this: is what I feel with the league this year is the league is very top heavy. You take those 6 teams that I listed, and I don't know that you can really call any team below them, anything other than a good, solid football team. Like, Washington's a good, solid football team. The Ravens are a good, solid football team. I'm sure somebody else is if we could think of them, but like you're talking like 7-5 teams, 8-5 teams. They're not really at the same level as teams that have 1, 2, and 3 losses. That's all I'm really saying.
Yeah.
Like, hey Mark, who would you rather play in the Super Bowl, assuming we get there? Would you rather play the Ravens or the Steelers?
I guess the Ravens.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that.
What do you say, technical director?
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to play either one, to be honest with you, only because, Russell Wilson, I actually had to watch that game today for our show later. So I'm just fresh off of that game about 2 hours ago. And he looks like the answer to their issues.
Well, but you also have to say Cincinnati.
Well, yeah, but still, he's still been playing pretty well.
He's certainly playing well.
And for him to bounce back from a pick 6 and then throw 400 yards in a victory, I mean, that shows his veteran status. So anyway, the answer to your question, Rube, is I actually think I'd rather play the Ravens. I really do, because and one of the reasons is because of what Mark just stated, which is when what's his name, Lamar Jackson, is inside the pocket, he, at least in this game against the Eagles, and I think they showed in some other games, he's not as accurate. So the Eagles, their strategy of trying to keep a pocket, keep him inside that pocket, it worked.
It worked. It worked really well. I mean, here's the thing. Look, they're a well-coached football team, but I don't know. I look at it after the fact and I just say, like, all right, but look, this is a team that also lost to the Browns. I'm not nothing against the Steelers, but the Steelers had no problems with them, which you would think that they would if they were actually good. They're just, they're an above average, okay team with 2 great players. And if one of the 2 of them is contained, you're probably going to win the game.
Now, go ahead.
Is defense? I think I had read that their defense was very highly rated, especially against the run. If I got that right,
it is. They were number one against the run.
Admittedly, guys, I didn't see a lot of the game yesterday, but what did you think of the Ravens defense? How did you stack them up against the Steelers defense?
Well, that's a tough question, because the Steelers defense is what I like in the Steelers defense too is it's a big play defense.
Yeah.
So like they won against the Bengals because of a couple big plays.
Yeah.
But they also gave up like take away the pick six. They also gave up 31 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can pick apart the Steelers on defense, but if the Steelers get 2 or 3 big plays, then that could tilt it in their favor. Whereas I think the Ravens, they actually play the run pretty good. I think they're number 1 or number 2 against the run, but their pass defense is pretty bad. So now, of course, when you didn't have Devontae out there, then that allows them to double cover A.J. Brown, allows them to roll more coverage to Dallas Goedert. So, and the bottom line is, we don't really want to throw the ball anyway. We really want to run the ball to Saquon the whole game, which is basically what we did. And then eventually we wore them down in the second half. And Barkley, hit his 25-yard touchdown run.
And speaking of that, I want to go over some statistics because we're spending a lot of time on who we would rather play in the Super Bowl, and we haven't. None of these teams have made it there yet. Hurts was 11 of 19 for 118 yards and a touchdown. He did have 9 rushes for 29 yards and a score, so there's one more touchdown towards that, leading the Eagles in touchdowns goal that Rube likes to speak of so highly. His prediction.
It's close. I think. How close is it, Chris? You got the stats.
It's very close. I think it's like they're 1 apart.
I'm going to go back and forth right here. It's going to take me a second. So
I think it's like 12 and 11. I think you're right, Mark. I think Jalen's got 12 rushing touchdowns and Saquon's got 11. So it's tight.
I think that's right. And so Barkley had, going back to the stats here, he had, I think it was 23 rushes for 107 yards and a score. And we have a highlight of one of those big TDs.
Down. Saquon. Oh, here he goes. Barkley at the 10, the 5, and the touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about all year. When they finally got him incorporated fully into the offense and the offense can ride him, it's really hard to stop them. And then when you have an offense that's clicking the way they are and Saquon running the way he is, then the defense just naturally follows suit. I mean, they don't want Barkley to run down the field, score a touchdown, and then give up a quick 6 right away. They want to hold the other team. So A.J. Brown, 5 receptions for 66 yards. Dallas Goedert had a real nice touchdown. Love to see that.
Of course, he's nicked up again.
Well, such is the life of a tight end,
Well, I don't know. I think it's like the 3rd time he's hurt this year.
Right.
He's week to week, so it's not a big deal, but I imagine they'll rest him versus Carolina, and then he'll be back for the Steelers, probably.
Yep. So
we're such a better team with him in the game too, but you're right. He seems to get hurt more and more often, and that's concerning.
So that leads us to page 2, which we already got started on before I turn the page, and that is Saquon Barkley outperforms King Henry. And he did. Now, Henry didn't have a horrible game, 19 rushes for 82 yards, but he didn't have any touchdowns. And Jackson rushed for 79 yards, no touchdowns. He did throw for 2. So, I mean, I think this is the best you could hope for in this game. First of all, a victory.
Well, I think really the best part of this game was, the offense kind of did what they wanted to do, but I think what it comes down to is, and it's something we really can't really say we've had for quite a while, is our team has become very physical and a very good tackling team. And that's why they're pretty much first in like every single category of defense. What was that thing that I sent to you guys? It was, their ranks since the, since what was it? The first, yards. Yeah, since week 6, yards per game allowed, first in the NFL at 241. Yards per play allowed, first 4.1. Yards per attempt allowed, first at 5.6. Sacks 30, first. Sack rate 10.6%, first. Passer rating allowed 78.1, second. Points per game allowed 15.3, second.
What did you say on sacks, Mark? 31st?
30 being first in the NFL.
Oh, 30 being first in the NFL.
Yes,
Wow,
yes.
that surprises me. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're really, really playing well. I mean, another game where Quinyon Mitchell, like, I think like the opponents that he covered had like 2 catches for 10 yards. Like he just like doesn't give up anything.
Yeah.
Cooper DeJean, pretty much the same.
Right.
He's making like a big play every single week. Zach Bond is just a monster at linebacker. Leads the team in tackles every week, and I think he's like top 10 in tackles in the league. Nakobe Dean's playing great. You got Jordan Davis and of course Jalen Carter just disrupting everything on the inside. And really, what was nice to see too was even Jay Links Hunt, who had to, who basically had his snaps doubled because of Brandon Graham being out. He got in on got a half a sack that he shared with Zach Bond, and had a couple pressures as well. So even he's getting in there. So yeah, there's just, I mean, everybody's really playing well as a unit. And what I really was encouraged by was it was very similar to when the Eagles beat the Falcons in the championship game years and years ago, where they had that mush rush where they just kept Michael Vick in the pocket. That's what they were doing to, that's what they were doing to Lamar Jackson. And, like the difference between a good defense and a bad defense is looking at that Steelers game, the last play of the game where the Steelers iced it. Everybody knew that Justin Fields was going to do a run around the end. And then you saw the defenders bite on the inside. They don't contain the pocket, and he goes out and wins the game. Eagles weren't doing that the whole game. So Lamar did make a few plays with his feet, but not too many.
Are you a little sick, Schwaber? Do you have? Is this why we have the?
Oh yeah, I'm sick.
The antiseptic stuff here.
I play through pain.
Yeah, right. Well, here's hoping I don't get it. Anyway, so talking about the rest of this, and now this is a far cry from. Where are you with this, Rob? Let me ask you this: the Negadelphia in you. And I'm bringing that up because Steve, here's Steve's question. What happens when Barkley gets injured?
That's a Negadelphia question.
Big problem. So, but where are you right now? Because they are what, 10-2, right?
That's kind of like insert the best player on every team. You've got a big problem.
First in the NFC, first place in the NFC East.
What if Josh Allen gets hurt?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt?
First place in the NFC East, definitely in the driver's seat. I know Steve likes to chime in here. He said earlier that the Bills are the best in the AFC, Detroit probably the best in the NFL. How do you feel about that? I actually think that the Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now. That's the way I feel with the combination of their defense, their offense, and all of the points we made earlier about Barkley, the line, and what have you. And before you answer, just one more thing. They have the Panthers coming up, then the Steelers, then the Commanders, then the Cowboys, then the Giants. So they finish out the year against 3 horrible teams and 2 good teams. So let's assume they go 3-2. So now they're 13-4. What are your feelings on this now, coming from the Negadelphia angle that you so eloquently seem to bring to the surface on a regular basis?
Here's what I would tell you. When you compare where we are this year to where we were last year, I feel 1,000 times better. It passes the eyeball test and the sniff test. We all knew and could smell it coming last year that we were winning in magical ways, and that our luck was gonna come to an end.
Right.
But you can't argue with what you see with your eyeballs now. You can't argue with the stats that the Grand Schwabini just laid out on defense. It's a much different team playing in a much different level, and going into Baltimore and getting a win on the road, and doing it and giving up, what did they give up? 12 points plus that last touchdown at 3 seconds and 19 points
Mhm.
yesterday, I think they look pretty dang impressive. So I'm excited. Of course, when you look at the rest of their schedule, they look like very winnable games, and so I feel good. Do I feel like they're better than Detroit right now? I think it would be a hell of a game, but I have more confidence now than I certainly did at this time last year. So I'm feeling
Yeah.
actually quite positive about it.
Ooh,
I'm not willing to
Yeah,
go to
that's
I'm not
good to
willing
know.
to go to the Super Bowl yet. But
Right.
let's see how things play out, and when we start resting players, and what does that look like? So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think you still got to have Detroit number one. For the entirety of the season. Detroit didn't have any, bad 2-2 stretch like we did at the beginning of the year. They've been rolling from game one.
And
Um,
they've had injuries too, so they've been able to
mhm.
overcome some pretty big injuries. And one more thing, Grand Schwabini, before I go on, I mean,
Yeah.
we were pretty nicked up on defense. Blankenship went out. This McCollum played very well.
Mhm.
Quinion got nicked up. We had people come in and next man up, and it kind of feels like, that locker room is together. And for all the Sirianni haters out there, and we were probably some of them, uh,
True.
3 seasons in a row with more than 10 wins, and we get one more win, and I think I'll be our longest winning streak maybe ever. So something's happening, and the next man up is working, and our lines of scrimmage are dominating. That is a good recipe for big runs in the playoffs in the NFL. Please, Mark.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think that it just remains to be seen. I mean, I think, to me, it's the Eagles and Detroit in the NFC. Could one of the other teams come up and surprise somebody? Sure. Could Green Bay maybe get hot and surprise someone? Sure. But, I really think it's a 2-team race at this point. And until something else happens to tell us otherwise, I think that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I don't. I'm looking at the playoff standings right now. What is it? The 4 division winners and 3 wild cards, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So as of today, in the AFC, you've got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, the Texans, the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Broncos. Believe it or not. And of those 7 teams, I would say that the top 4, really the top 3, Chiefs, Bills, and Steelers, that they're pretty much a lock for the playoffs at this point. Barring a monumental collapse from the Steelers. So right after that, you've got the Colts, the Dolphins, the Bengals. The Bengals are the only team that if they run the table and go, 9-8, when they'd have to win their last 5, they have an outside shot. As far as the NFC goes, it's really a little clearer right now. They've got the Lions, the Eagles. I don't know why this is the way it is, but they got Minnesota in the 5 seed.
That's because they're second behind Detroit in the division,
right? And,
That's right.
but they're 10-2, so it's wild. And the Falcons at 6-6, and you go down to the Commanders at 8-5. It's kind of mushy down there because you look at the Commanders at 8-5, then you got the Bucks, the Cardinals, the Rams, all at 500 at 6-6, and then even the Niners, and say a prayer for the Cowboys at 5-7. So that's kind of mushy as well. You throw the Falcons in there too at 6-6, Seattle at 7-5. I mean, the NFC playoff picture, other than the top 2 teams, or the top 3 teams, right, the Lions, Eagles, and the Vikings, I think it's really muddy. I would love to see a Lions Eagles championship game. I think that would be
a great game.
Fantastic.
I might have to watch that elsewhere.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll tell you what,
like where here?
I'll tell you what.
I may have to fly to Pittsburgh with you guys.
That game would be much better outside at the Link as compared to in the Dome in Detroit.
Yeah,
exactly right, Mark. I mean, you look at some of those teams that Chris just rattled off: Lions inside team, Falcons inside team, Vikings inside team. right? So
Mhm.
it would sure be nice to have them come play out there. We should get our crack staff on figuring out when outdoor teams play indoor teams in the playoffs, kind of what do the records look like?
Yeah, well, and by crack staff, he means me.
Yeah, hey, crack staff.
I mean, I'm putting nails in the wall as the show's beginning, and then you want me to research these statistics.
I do know that at least by opponents, the Lions have a harder schedule down the road than the Eagles do.
Yeah, I can give you that here in a second. If you want to give me a quick sec, I will pull up the teams. Here we go. Let's take a look at the Lions. I really wish my internet was a little faster, even though I have a T1 line. Anyway, so yeah, the Lions, they have the Packers, the Bills, the Bears, the Niners, and the Vikings. So
there's several games there that are potentially losable.
Yeah, and they have like 15 players on defense on injured reserve. So,
but,
I mean, their defense is playing well. But
people are saying that, but I mean, really, other than Hutchinson, who's out that's really good?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't know.
Apparently nobody, because their defense is still playing really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And all they did was
ahead of ourselves. I mean, listen, we could talk playoffs for a while, and there's still stuff to play out. But being not Negadelphia and Posidelphia, I want to enjoy this win. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. This is a huge win for this team. Winning in Baltimore is no easy task, regardless of how good you think they may or may not be. This is a big win. And I think we got to enjoy it and enjoy the rest of the season and just pray for health and make sure we go into the playoffs.
Let's do that.
So
let's move on to something that goes by the initials MM.
Yes, this will be page 4. Michkov Mania.
Michkov Mania, the mother Russia.
Speed to the Philadelphia line. Thomas swept away by Konechny, throws it ahead, and Michkov has the game on his stick. Michkov in on goal! He scores! McVay magic in overtime yet again!
Look at Parayko. I mean, he is breathing down his neck and able to finish into the boards hard. Michkov with the dramatic finish once again.
Yep, that was a special goal.
3 overtime winners as a teenager. What else can you say? Nothing at all. He's the real deal.
Well, I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for Hockey Jesus to chime in right here, because I think he's got to be losing some steam on his Crosby derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
We need to the Philadelphia sports teams. We got to get M's on all the team and come up with a good name. Like you got Maxey and McCain and Michkov. Who would be the guys on like the Eagles and the Phillies?
Mailata.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, it's interesting. All of a sudden, I go away for a week, and all of a sudden, the Flyers are in 5th place. We got 27 points. We got the same number of points as the Bruins. I don't want to get over my skis here, but it's nice.
Yeah, they're 7-2-2 in their last 11. So they're playing some good puck.
Yeah, 27 points, 12-10-3, or 12-13, as Hockey Jesus would like to say. And yeah, I mean, I think this year is the year you watch this kid develop. It definitely looks like he can play. There's no doubt about that. It's just, when the game's on the line, you want him to have the puck.
Right.
Can the rest of the team follow suit, and can they put together something,
well, I mean, Konechny's putting together a career year.
Yeah.
Did you see that assist? I mean, nice goal by Michkov, but that was a hell of a play that got him the puck. That was incredible.
Yeah, he's got I think he's got 25. I think he's got 30 points in 25 games. Konechny does. So Konechny's kind of raised his game to a new level. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, look, this may be a similar situation to last year. Keep in mind, this might be a situation where come the trade deadline, if the Flyers stand pat, they might have a chance to make the playoffs. But are we going to sell off, our buyable pieces to get first round picks, with the future in mind? Like, for example, Rasmus Ristolainen is playing some really good hockey lately. I know, like in this last stretch, he's like a +6. And, he's a stay-at-home defenseman that a lot of teams would love to have, who can skate. And, are we going to keep him so that we could, possibly make the playoffs? Or are we going to, give him to somebody and take their number one pick? It's a tough scenario that they're in right now.
For me, it's not tough at all. I think you keep gathering youth and picks, and you forget about the playoffs for a couple of years. You let these guys develop, and you keep doing that. We're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year or next year. I sell if the price is right.
Okay, that's fair. I think you're right about that. I think you are. But at the same time, though, then there is the other side of it where you could say, is there something worthwhile about letting some of these younger kids, like a Michkov and a Forster and a Sanheim, experience the playoffs?
Well, I think they're playing. Look, it doesn't matter where you are in the development of your team. When you start the season, every team is trying to make the playoffs. So I don't think it's a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I think, Philadelphia, there's only 3 points that separate the Rangers from the Penguins, who are in the bottom of the division.
Right.
So, with games in hand and all that kind of stuff. And the games in hand really come into play more when you're later in the year. But, I don't think it's a bad thing to get excited about this. But at the same time, when push comes to shove by the end of the year, should they be in contention for a playoff spot? Probably not. But if you can keep yourself relevant enough to be close and even squeak in, that's a huge victory. So then you go out and you look for goaltending. I mean,
right.
That's pretty much what you do.
Meanwhile, the Russian goaltenders are playing very well.
Yeah, and maybe they start to come into their own.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they start to come into their own. So this is the Sports Philadelphia. We do drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get Rube.
Your friggin' podcasts.
That's exactly right. And you can follow us on YouTube at Philadelphia Sports Porch. We're actually live there right now. And if you're watching live, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. Page 5. Something that really, first of all, at this point in the year, we didn't think that we'd be talking about the Sixers this way. And also saying, hey, we're waiting for the Philly season to start. So I'm going to let you guys take that one, right now. The Sixers currently at 4-14. Really unexpected. And yes, I was looking for that. Look at that. Rube, you're going to be right way before we thought you would be wrong.
17 games to 1. Is that correct?
No, they don't have any. Oh yeah. 1 with the big 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. I started the new list. Games with the big 3.
Okay. There you go. Yeah. Well, you have to be fair. Be fair.
Yeah, gotta be fair.
Yeah. Their latest loss, their last 3, they were 1-2. They lost 105-107 to the Raptors and then 124-109 to the Bucks. Tyrese Maxey still leading the team at 25.9 points a game. Jared McCain's field goal percentage is not too shabby at 44.8. But I mean, at what point do you just call the season, guys? Is it time?
Well, I
know it's early, but is it time?
I don't think they're going to, but they should really think about it. I don't know if you did you hear me talking about Cooper Flagg last week, Rube?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the prize, and he's certainly a prize worth grabbing.
It's a strong draft. It's a strong draft next year. It's the strongest it's been in a while, and he's certainly a prize. And I don't know. So you guys are going to have to catch me up, but it sounds like things have gone from bad to worse with Embiid, like personal issues, and maybe the knee is a little further away than we all think. What happened this week? Is there any kind of new news there?
I don't know. To be honest, I almost kind of like shut it out. Like it's like, just tell me when he's going to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
burn it down, get good picks, grow around Eminem, and let's move on. I don't know what else to say. I would give them more credit that way, but you know what? If I'm a season ticket holder, I'm done.
You're pissed.
First of all, I don't know how you're dumb enough to be a season ticket holder with this team. But I wouldn't pay a penny to watch them play. I wouldn't even watch them if they were on TV because it's not good basketball.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you've got the Sixers now on par with they're a little better than the Wizards, but they're on par with the Jazz, and the New Orleans Pelicans. So, which is, I think, the dumbest name for a sports franchise ever, but
it's pretty dumb.
It's close. Yeah. Yeah. So
how do you feel if you draft Zion Williamson and he's hurt every 3 days too?
Right. Well, that's like the same thing as with Embiid.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is something that, and I was telling Rube this a couple of weeks ago when you weren't here, Schwaber, that I always felt like Embiid was not the answer. I always felt like he was more of a me guy than a team player. And he's great, but I think it's time to say goodbye. I think you get rid of him now. I mean, I know how these things work. It's not like they're actively looking for trade partners for Joel Embiid at this point right now. And I know that's like, that's like the that's like anti-Philly to the point where they'd string me up outside at this point. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are looking at this and saying maybe it is time, because it's obvious that you're not going to have these guys on the court long enough, to make a difference this year. And hey, look, miracles happen, but that's the thing. It would take a miracle to get all three of those guys playing together, playing the rest of the season together, especially, and to have it turn around. I mean, you're 10 games under 500. Boston is 16-4. I mean,
yeah, to what end? So what?
Right.
So they do turn it around, they squeak into the playoffs, and then, you're out early. And so what's the point? I don't understand the point anymore. And I think, Chris, to your point about being strung up, I would argue that the majority of the Philadelphia 76ers fans are in 100% alignment with what you're saying. I think people are fed up with this team. I think they're frustrated. I don't ever hear anything from anyone other than Nick Nurse. Where's the dang owner? Where's this Morey joker about, instilling confidence back that this team is going to be worth a dang thing? I don't see it. I think it's time to start over.
Schwaber.
Well, I mean, look, I can't argue with it, but at the same time, I mean, the reality is if those guys are on the floor, they're an upper half of the league team. So what are you going to do? I mean, if he can play, he can play. But by the way, just so people know, Maxey is playing. Paul George came back for the last game. So it's really just Embiid. And it's really, that's what it's all about. I mean, if Embiid can play, what are there, 50 games left, something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, if Embiid can play 40 of 50 games, then play him. But if not, then I don't really know what the point is.
Right.
You might as well just, and if you're not going to trade him, you might as well just have him sit out the entire year and see if he can get his knee as healthy as can possibly be and be ready to go for the start of next season with the idea that he's going to play every game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they could do that and tank and get the number 1 pick. I mean, I think at this point right now, that's probably the best scenario for them other than say, trading him. So Steve says the center position in the NBA is obsolete.
I would argue that Nikola the Joker would put that right to shame. I disagree with due respect.
Well, he is hockey. He is hockey Jesus. He's not basketball Jesus. So.
Right.
What does the young Klein say about this? What's his feeling in this whole situation?
Cash, it's funny. I haven't talked to Cash about the Sixers this year yet. We went out to dinner for our listeners and our viewers. Cash is my son, and he's a rabid Sixers fan.
Yeah.
And he does want to make a guest appearance again. But he said he feels like his best contribution will be sitting here in the studio with us. So we're going to make sure that he's here when he does it. But I the last time we were out to dinner, he just said they've gotten off to a pretty bad start, and it's not good when Embiid's not playing and George isn't playing. That's all he could say. But we're talking like 3 weeks ago. So, their record wasn't 4-14. It was, I don't know, 2-6
or
something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I'm sure he has a lot to say now. He was always a Maxey fan. He liked Maxey. Who was a guy he didn't like?
Tobias Harris.
He really did not like Tobias Harris. So, all right, guys, listen, before we go here on the Sports Porch Philadelphia, let's get some predictions for next week's Eagles game. It's Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It's at home or in Carolina?
I think it's at home.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at home. The only reason I want to do this is because in my life, trap games are a lot, and they're big things.
You love the trap game,
and I did call the Eagles winning this game.
Define trap game.
A trap game is a game that you should win. That every single statistic, every single player, everything is in your favor. You've got a better offense. You've got a better defense. You've got it all. And
like the Chiefs versus the Carolina Panthers, and they won on a botched field goal.
Exactly. Well, and they won on a botched LA or Vegas Raiders situation,
right.
which leads to all the conspiracy. If there's any year to believe in a conspiracy theory for the Chiefs, this would be the year. They seem to win every game on the last play because somebody makes a stupid mistake or the ref makes a stupid call.
And you know what? It's like, this is happening, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking now, and they'll be talking it during the playoffs. Oh, the Bills are the best team in the AFC. And when it's all said and done, we're going to be looking right up at Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. And it's kind of like...
and they're starting to get healthy. They got Pacheco back.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a trap game is a game in which you come off of a big win, and the Eagles... big win in Baltimore, and who did they beat the week before? Who did the Eagles beat the week before? What is my problem? Well,
that doesn't matter about the trap.
The Rams.
The Rams, right? No, what I'm saying is you're on the road 2 weeks in a row. You're on the West Coast and you're in Baltimore, unfriendly territory. Baltimore, for all intents and purposes, they feel like they should have beat the Eagles, and now you're going back home. You're
sandwiched in between the Steelers game, which is a legitimate game.
Yes, which is also a home game, but you're going back home. You're playing a team, and just like the Steelers losing to Cleveland a couple weeks ago, it's a team that you should beat, and you overlook it, and you kind of dial it in because. In all reality, the Eagles should be able to beat the Panthers half asleep. That's how bad that team is. So this is a trap game. This is a game in which Carolina has absolutely nothing to lose. If Carolina loses 50-0, they don't lose anything.
They're actually playing pretty well lately.
Well, right. Yeah. But, it's what it is as a franchise, the team, if they lose, they're not in position for anything. The players are playing for contracts. There's going to be some free agents there. Yeah. I want to get out of here, so I want to play well.
You say to yourself, how can you let Bryce Young beat you at home?
Right.
Trap game.
So let's get this out of the way. I think the Eagles are going to win this game because I think they're so far superior. I also think that they're riding this wave differently than they did last year because of the Saquon Barkley addition, and he's a guy that wants to win more than anything now. And I think they will win this game, but I think there's going to be a little air let out of the sails
It's going to be close.
I think it's going to be a close
trap game effect will take hold.
Yeah. I think
they'll escape.
I think Carolina is going to surprise them.
Yeah.
And not put up a lot of points because they can't. But the Eagles offense is going to be flat. That's what I think is going to happen. So I think they're going to win like 17-14, and everybody's going to go crazy because they should have won 38 to 10. That's me.
I got the Eagles 78-3.
Well, then that just means I'm going to be 100% right.
No, it won't be that good, but yeah, I think they'll win handily, but not amazingly. They'll probably win by 10, 14 points, something like that.
All right, so you think it's going to be a big victory?
Yeah, I'd like to see the Eagles come out and have their offense clicking early so we can rest our starters in the second half. I think if we don't come out clicking, it'll be a little closer to your point, Chris, but I think if we do score early and build up a lead, 17-3, 17-6, that we'll win. We will cover whatever spread there needs to be. I think it all depends on how we start.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think it's if the Eagles do not come out and score in their first two possessions, and even if Carolina takes a 3-0 lead, I think that kind of surprises them, and then it becomes more of a slugfest, and that's where it ends up. But I still think the Eagles. I still think they're going to win. So there you have it, 78-3. That's what Schwaber says.
78-3, maybe 78-5. Maybe they get a late safety.
Okay. All right, guys. Listen, you're watching live the Sports Porch Philadelphia all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. And of course, I'm going to drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your
frickin' podcasts.
That's right. And you can follow us on YouTube at Philadelphia Sports Porch. I am proud to be here with the Grand Schwabini across from me, who's been coughing in my face the whole time, with Rube, who has the digital mask on, the proud Philly fan living in Texas. I am your technical director. We will see you next week, and I am out.
Come rain or shine.
Jablonsk.
See you next